For almost 10 years now, the surprise phenomenon of superhero films has been dominating film culture as well as global box offices. Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe began in 2008 with Jon Favreau's Iron Man. Although other studios have been releasing films prior to this, such as Sony's Sam Raimi-directed Spider-Man trilogy and 20th Century Fox's X-Men series. Since the dawn of the MCU, Disney has continued to build upon their franchise, improving their formula, and has continued to release quality films. Since the spawn of this new multi-million-dollar way of creating and releasing films, other studios have attempted to create their own cinematic universes in hopes of achieving a similar success to that of the MCU. The only one thus far that has had any notable success besides Marvel, however, is Warner Bros. DC Studio. DC, like Marvel, has had a collection of characters to create their own cinematic universe from. Some comic book fans might even argue that they have better source material than Marvel. And while the DC franchise has been seeing relatively successful box office return, critical reception to most of their films has been rather low. Now, there are many reasons for this behind the scenes, such as trying to kickstart the DC franchise in order to catch up with Marvel, and far too much studio input. Today, however, I'm going back to the beginning, back to the Christopher Nolan produced, Zack Snyder directed Man of Steel. I'm going to be taking a look at how DC has taken the hero out of one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. Let's start with something as simple as motivation. Whether it's a hero, a villain, or something in between, a character always requires some sort of motivation for the actions they partake in. One of the most classic examples comes from DC's own Batman. Bruce Wayne's parents are murdered in front of him, thus giving him a drive and thirst for justice. Now let's take a look at Man of Steel's Clark Kent. What is Clark Kent's motivation for becoming Superman? Other than the fact his Kryptonian father tells him he's destined for greatness, or something to that cause.
You were the embodiment of that belief, Cal. Krypton's first natural birth in centuries.
He doesn't seem to have any personal motivation to become a superhero. If we were to look to the comics for answers, Superman's motivation comes primarily from his foster parents, Jonathan and Martha Kent. The couple raise Clark after discovering him in his spaceship, and bestow upon him righteous morals, as well as a sense of kindness towards others. He later discovers his true identity, and decides to return the generosity of his foster parents who loved him just like their own, and to the world that has now become his home. The Kents laid the groundwork for Clark's morals, and through their love he becomes motivated to protect the world that took him in. Jonathan and Martha Kent in Man of Steel, however, are written to discourage and prevent any sort of motivation for Clark to become a hero. Every chance he gets to use his abilities, they warn him against it, and instead they try to hide him away from the rest of the world.
We talked about this, right? Right? We talked about this. Oh, Clark, you have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe.
This behavior goes so far as to have Jonathan decide to rather die than to have Clark make the heroic decision and save him. The only thing that gives him any sort of motivation is Jor-El telling him that he is destined to become this heroic entity. However, this still doesn't give Clark any deep-seated desire to become Earth's guardian. Since there is no motivation stemming from Clark Kent as a character, all the actions that Superman takes, which should come off as heroic, seem to be more of a burden on the character. Another problem comes from Superman, or seemingly any of the DC superheroes' lack of interest in the safety of the very people they're supposed to be protecting. In fight scenes, they seem to care very little about the collateral damage that is caused, or saving those who are in need, choosing rather to focus doing whatever they can to defeat their foe. It becomes more of a clash of titans or gods at that point, rather than a battle between a hero and a villain. For a positive example of heroism, let's turn to Marvel's Avengers. Despite the massive force they're dealing with, the group of heroes take the time to save the lives of nearby citizens and attempt to prevent causing any more damage to the city than is already being caused. If we were to look at Man of Steel, however, Superman shows no concern for the safety of Metropolis or its people. He seems to cause almost the same amount of damage that Zod does. And even towards the end of the film, Superman threatens the military for attempting to keep tabs on him.
Are you effing stupid?
These don't seem like the mannerisms of a hero to me.
What are you smiling about, Captain?
Nothing, sir. I just think he's kind of hot.
While I've been making this video, another DC film has came out recently, Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. While the film isn't perfect, Wonder Woman is definitely a step in the right direction, especially tone-wise for DC moving into the future. Not only does the film have more levity and enjoyable characters compared to the bleaker films that have come before it, Wonder Woman herself is the first DC protagonist to have any sort of heroic quality thus far.
We can't save everyone in this war. This is not what we came here to do.
No, but it's what I'm going to do.
She inspires those with her good deeds and puts others before herself constantly, going out of her way to protect those who cannot protect themselves. These are the qualities of a hero, not some mopey alien with a god complex who has to be told he must become a superhero by someone he's never even met. It might already be too late for the upcoming Justice League film, but perhaps stepping into the future, DC will be able to bring back the hero to their superheroes.